It was an unusually quiet afternoon in downtown Los Angeles. Elon Musk, in one of his rare unguarded moments, decided to step out of his car and walk a few blocks to clear his mind. The air was thick with the usual city buzz, street performers, honking cars, and the occasional call of a food vendor. But amidst the chaos, something unexpected caught his eye. A man sitting cross-legged on the pavement had a hand-drawn cardboard sign propped up beside him. The words, scrawled in bold, uneven letters, read, "I can fix anything, even a rocket." The statement, audacious and almost comical, pulled Elon to a stop. Intrigued, he approached the man. He was in his late 40s, his face weathered but sharp, with a pair of glasses perched precariously on his nose. His clothes were tattered, but his eyes carried a spark of intelligence that stood out amidst the grime. "What's with the sign?" Elon asked, his tone a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The man looked up, startled but composed. "It's not just a sign," he replied calmly. "It's a fact." Elon raised an eyebrow. "A fact, huh? And who are you?" The man extended a hand, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "Name's Daniel. Used to be an aerospace engineer. Now I fix broken things, when people bother to ask." The casual confidence in Daniel's words intrigued Elon even further. He sat down on the bench nearby, gesturing for Daniel to elaborate. "Let me guess," Elon began. "You lost your job and now you're here, claiming you can fix rockets?" Daniel chuckled bitterly. "Not just rockets, advanced propulsion systems, ion drives, cryogenic tanks, the kind of stuff you probably think only SpaceX can handle." Elon's eyes narrowed, his curiosity deepening. "And how do you know I'm with SpaceX?" Daniel smirked, tapping the side of his head. "You're Elon Musk, hard to miss. And besides, I've been following your work since the Falcon 1 days. You've got the right ideas, but I'd bet you're still stuck on a few inefficiencies in your Starship design." For a moment, Elon was taken aback. It wasn't just the recognition, it was the confidence with which Daniel spoke. He wasn't bluffing. "All right," Elon said, leaning forward. "Tell me, if you're such an expert, what's wrong with Starship?" Daniel's response was immediate, his words flowing effortlessly as he described a flaw in the propulsion system that only someone with intimate knowledge of aerospace engineering could identify. He didn't just point out the issue. He proposed a solution that was so unorthodox, so innovative, that Elon found himself genuinely impressed. For the first time in years, Elon Musk, the man known for his larger-than-life ideas, was speechless. As Daniel finished explaining his idea, Elon sat back, his mind racing. This man, sitting on the pavement, had just proposed a solution to a problem that had plagued SpaceX engineers for months. But how had someone like him ended up here? "You clearly know your stuff," Elon said, breaking the silence. "How did you end up on the streets?" Daniel let out a heavy sigh, the weight of his story evident in his posture. "Life doesn't always go as planned, Mr. Musk," he began, his voice tinged with both regret and defiance. "I graduated from MIT, top of my class in aerospace engineering. I worked with some of the best teams in the industry, designing propulsion systems that are probably still being used today." Elon nodded, recognizing the name of one of the companies Daniel mentioned. "So what happened?" Daniel hesitated for a moment, as if debating how much to reveal. Finally, he continued. "It started with my wife's illness, cancer. We spent everything on treatments, trying to save her. When she passed, I couldn't focus. I started missing deadlines, making mistakes. They let me go." The sadness in his voice was palpable, but there was no trace of self-pity, just raw honesty. "And then," Elon prompted gently, "then the recession hit. Jobs were scarce, and no one wanted to hire an engineer who had a recent history of unreliability. I sold the house to pay off debts, moved into a small apartment, but it wasn't enough. Eventually, I ended up here." He gestured to the street around them, his tone matter-of-fact. Elon was silent for a moment, absorbing the story. "Why didn't you try starting over? A man with your skills could have reinvented himself." Daniel gave a bitter laugh. "You think I didn't try? Every interview, every application. It's like my past followed me everywhere. People only saw the man who failed, not the one who succeeded before that. And after a while, you just stopped trying." Elon studied him, seeing not just a man beaten down by life, but someone whose brilliance had been overshadowed by circumstances beyond his control. "But I never stopped thinking," Daniel added, his voice firmer now. "I kept solving problems in my head, designing things no one's even thought of yet. I've been sitting here, waiting for someone, anyone, to give me a shot. And then you walked by." There was no begging in his tone, no plea for sympathy, just a quiet conviction. Elon couldn't help but admire it. "Do you still believe in your ideas?" Elon asked, his gaze intense. Daniel met his eyes without hesitation. "I don't just believe in them. I know they'll work." For a moment, neither man spoke. The world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the weight of the moment. Finally, Elon stood up. "All right, Daniel," he said, extending a hand. "Let's see if you're as good as you say you are." Daniel hesitated, disbelief flickering across his face. But then he reached out, grasping Elon's hand firmly. For the first time in years, he felt something he thought he'd lost forever: hope. The next morning, Daniel found himself standing at the gates of SpaceX headquarters. His tattered clothes had been replaced with a simple but clean outfit that Elon's team had arranged for him. Even so, Daniel couldn't shake the nervousness creeping into his chest. This was his shot, a chance to prove he wasn't just another forgotten soul on the street. Elon greeted him at the entrance with his usual no-nonsense demeanor. "All right, Daniel, here's how this is going to work. You'll sit down with my top engineers and answer their questions. If you impress them, we'll move forward. If not," he trailed off, his expression making it clear that failure wasn't an option. Daniel nodded, his jaw set with determination. "I'm ready." Inside the sleek, bustling halls of SpaceX, Daniel was led into a glass-walled conference room. Waiting for him were 5 senior engineers, each with a reputation that could intimidate even the most confident professionals. They looked skeptical as Daniel entered, some raising an eyebrow at Elon's decision to bring in a seemingly random outsider. "Let's get started," one of the engineers said, his tone clipped. "Explain how you'd optimize fuel efficiency for a long-duration mission to Mars." Daniel didn't hesitate. He launched into a detailed explanation, using the whiteboard to sketch out his ideas. His hands moved quickly, his voice steady, as he described a novel approach to reducing fuel consumption by altering the engine's combustion process. The engineers exchanged glances, their skepticism slowly giving way to curiosity. They began firing rapid questions at Daniel, challenging his calculations, his assumptions, his logic. But Daniel met every challenge with precision, his answers flowing effortlessly, as if he'd been preparing for this moment his entire life. At one point, Elon leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Daniel wasn't just holding his own, he was outpacing some of SpaceX's brightest minds. The final question came from the lead engineer, a gruff man who rarely minced words. "Your idea is solid, but it relies on a material that doesn't exist yet. How do you propose we solve that?" Daniel paused, a slight smile forming on his face. "It does exist. You're just not looking in the right place." He proceeded to outline how a little-known composite, often overlooked due to its cost, could be repurposed for their needs. The room fell silent as the engineers absorbed his response. Finally, the lead engineer turned to Elon. "He's not just good, he's brilliant." Elon nodded, clearly pleased. "All right, Daniel, you've passed the first test. Now let's see if you can handle the real thing." Daniel felt a surge of pride, but he knew this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be long and challenging, but for the first time in years, he felt like he was exactly where he belonged. As the hours turned into days, Daniel found himself immersed in the fast-paced environment of SpaceX. He wasn't given a formal position yet, but Elon made it clear that this was his chance to prove his worth. Daniel spent his days poring over technical schematics and solving problems that had stumped even the most seasoned engineers. But not everyone welcomed him with open arms. Whispers circulated among the team. Some questioned why Elon had brought in a homeless man to work on such high-stakes projects. Daniel overheard snippets of conversations in the corridors. "This isn't some charity," one engineer muttered. "What if he screws up?" Despite the doubts, Daniel pushed forward. He worked late into the night, driven by a mix of desperation and determination. He knew this was his last shot, and he wasn't about to let it slip away. One evening, Elon stopped by the lab where Daniel was working. The CEO leaned against the doorway, watching as Daniel meticulously adjusted a prototype engine model. "You know," Elon said, breaking the silence, "there were a lot of people who said I was crazy when I started SpaceX. They thought I was just some rich guy playing with rockets." Daniel glanced up, surprised by Elon's candidness. "And now they call you a genius," he replied with a faint smile. Elon nodded. "But the criticism never stops. The stakes just get higher. If you want to succeed here, you'll have to get used to that." Daniel set down his tools, meeting Elon's gaze. "I don't care what people think. I just want to prove that I can still make a difference." Elon studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Good, because you're about to get your chance." The next day, Elon announced that Daniel would lead a special task force to address a critical flaw in the Starship's fuel delivery system. It was a bold move, one that drew both admiration and resentment from the team. As Daniel presented his plan to a room full of skeptical engineers, he felt the weight of their judgment. But as he spoke, detailing a solution that combined cutting-edge technology with unconventional methods, the skepticism began to fade. By the time he finished, the room erupted in applause. For the first time, Daniel felt like he was part of something bigger than himself. Yet deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that his past might still come back to haunt him. Just as Daniel began to settle into his new role, something unexpected happened that threatened to undo everything. A reporter from a major news outlet got wind of Elon Musk's decision to hire a homeless engineer and decided to dig into Daniel's past. One morning, as Daniel walked into SpaceX headquarters, his phone buzzed with a barrage of notifications. Confused, he opened the first article, and his heart sank. The headline read, "From MIT to the Streets, the untold story of Elon Musk's homeless engineer." The article painted a sensationalized version of Daniel's life, highlighting his fall from grace and questioning Elon's judgment in hiring him. It mentioned his struggles in explicit detail: the debts, the personal losses, the termination from his previous job. The internet was ablaze with opinions, some sympathetic, but many cruel. When Daniel entered the office, he felt the shift immediately. Conversations hushed as he walked by, and colleagues who had started warming up to him now avoided eye contact. That afternoon, Elon called Daniel into his office. "Sit," Elon said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Daniel sat, his shoulders tense. "I'm sorry," he began, but Elon held up a hand to stop him. "Don't apologize," Elon said firmly. "This is not your fault. But I need to know, are you going to let this distract you, or are you going to prove them wrong?" Daniel took a deep breath, his jaw tightening. "I'm not going to let them win. I've worked too hard to get here." Elon nodded, his expression unreadable. "Good, because we're about to make things even more interesting." The next day, Elon held a press conference. Standing in front of a crowd of reporters, he addressed the controversy head-on. "Yes, I hired Daniel, a man who has faced more challenges than most of us could imagine," Elon said, his voice steady and unapologetic. "And you know what? He's already solved problems that our best engineers couldn't crack. If that's not genius, I don't know what is." The reporters fired back with questions, but Elon didn't flinch. "I don't care where someone comes from. What matters is what they're capable of, and Daniel has proven he's capable of extraordinary things." The press conference went viral, sparking a heated debate online. Many hailed Elon's decision as groundbreaking, while others continued to criticize him. But amidst the noise, one thing became clear. Daniel's work was now under a global spotlight. As Daniel watched the conference from a quiet corner of the SpaceX cafeteria, he felt a mix of gratitude and pressure. Elon had put his reputation on the line for him. Now it was up to Daniel to deliver. The pressure on Daniel was immense. With the world watching, every step he took was scrutinized. But instead of crumbling under the weight, he channeled his energy into his work. He dove headfirst into the Starship project, working day and night with a renewed sense of purpose. Weeks turned into months, and the once doubtful engineers began to rally behind him. Daniel's innovative approach to the fuel delivery system not only fixed the existing issues, but also improved efficiency beyond what anyone had thought possible. The final test was a live demonstration, a critical engine test that would either solidify Daniel's brilliance or confirm his critics' doubts. On the day of the test, SpaceX's headquarters was abuzz with anticipation. Engineers, executives, and even members of the media gathered to witness the results of Daniel's work. Elon stood beside Daniel in the control room, his usual calm demeanor betraying a hint of tension. "You ready for this?" Elon asked. Daniel nodded, his eyes fixed on the monitors. "I've been ready my whole life." As the countdown began, the room fell silent. The engine roared to life, and for a few agonizing seconds, everyone held their breath. Then the data started coming in. Better performance, higher efficiency, and flawless operation. The room erupted in cheers. Elon turned to Daniel with a rare smile. "I think you just shut up every critic we've got." But the moment wasn't just a professional victory for Daniel, it was deeply personal. As he stood there basking in the applause, he thought about his wife and how proud she would have been. For the first time in years, he felt truly vindicated. The success didn't just change Daniel's career, it transformed his entire life. Elon officially offered him a position as a lead engineer, and the media shifted its narrative. Articles now hailed him as a symbol of resilience, proof that brilliance can emerge from the most unexpected places. In a follow-up interview, Daniel was asked what kept him going through all the hardships. He paused for a moment before answering, "I never stopped believing in myself, even when no one else did. And when the right opportunity came, I was ready." The story of Daniel and Elon Musk became a beacon of hope for countless others, proving that talent and determination could shine through, even in the darkest circumstances. For Daniel, it wasn't just a second chance. It was the start of a new chapter, one where he could finally fulfill the dreams he thought he had lost forever.